Welcome to the New Planner Podcast, where it's all about helping you successfully enter the financial planning profession and accelerate your financial planning career. This podcast will help you understand the profession, become familiar with the various career paths available to you, and avoid the mistakes that limit your success. Join your host, Caleb Brown, to explore the human side of creating a successful planning career through interviews, personal experience, and insights from the trenches. Let's get started.
Hey, Jesse, welcome back to the New Planner Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Caleb.
This is going to be so fun. I look forward to this every year. I know this is the fifth time we've done this, the compensation and data, our salary report and compensation data points. So look forward to having you back. Thanks for making time for us. And also just thanks for your help with the survey.
Of course, it's one of the highlights of my year as well. I love digging into the data and seeing all the exciting things that are happening in the profession.
And our audience loves this. And again, if you have not downloaded or don't have access to the 2025 New Planner Recruiting Salary Report, you can go to our website, newplannerrecruiting.com, download it off the first page. But really, Jesse, just want to start with you on just maybe give us walk us through an overview of what happened and kind of the average salaries in the different geographic ranges, but also size firms and different channels.
Absolutely. Thank you for the introduction there. So, as some of you know, just a real quick overview of the methodology. What happens is Caleb is talking to hundreds and thousands of candidates across the country every year. He's asking these candidates, hey, what are you looking for? What sort of salary are we targeting? Where do you want to go? What sort of practice are you in now? And what's the ideal practice that you'd like to join? And he had this idea that, hey, why don't we start recording that? And why don't we aggregate it into a report? And so now that we're 5 years into this, we're starting to build a body of knowledge in not only what are candidates looking for, but what are firms moving on and what makes candidates move. And so kind of looking at the kind of some generalities real quick. If we look at student, paraplanner, associate financial planner, and financial planner, those are the four categories we wanted to kick off with. So a student being someone coming out of a CFP board registered program, a paraplanner being someone who is either recently graduated and has a little experience or a career changer, somebody would say less than 2 years of experience. An associate planner being that second chair, right? That person with kind of more than 2, less than 5 years of experience. And then the financial planner being that lead planner, somebody who's got the CFP, they've got more than 5 years of experience. So let's kind of wrap up those categories to start with. So when we look at the average student expected salary, it was $60,926. That's only a small increase year over year from last year. I think that's something we'll talk about a little bit more. Paraplanners saw a significant increase from 2024 to 2025. Last year was $65,000. This year was over $73,000. So we saw a big jump in that kind of 0 to 2 year person. Looking at associate financial planners, we saw a moderate increase from $90,000 last year to $95,000 this year. And financial planners again jumped from $109,000 to $114,000 this year. So large jumps there. We try to break this data down geographically. So when we look at the change in the Midwest, we saw a 3% increase. In the Northeast, we saw a 9% increase. Similarly, in the Pacific region, we saw a 9% increase. The Plains, we saw a 4% increase. In the Southeast, we saw a 7% increase. And if you've been following this survey for very long, you know the Southeast, since we started this survey, there's been a 28% increase in salary demand across experience, across the different channels from inception. And that's just the migration that you see talked about on the news on a regular basis. There are just a lot of people that want to come to the Southeast. It's a growing area. Those locations like Atlanta, Charlotte, Raleigh, Nashville, Florida are all seeing those big jumps.
Everybody, I mean, again, in the calls that we're having, the interviews, I mean, you feel like everybody is chasing the lower cost of living areas. And which is, I totally get it. But part of me is like, well, if everybody, there's not going to be any left, like if everybody keeps. So and also too, we do attract a lot of firms from just this area. I mean, just based kind of out, even though we're a virtual national firm, but a lot of firms in the Southeast since we're based just outside of Atlanta. So, I mean, that's amazing to me. I'm a 30% increase since inception. I mean, I interrupted you, but so keep going, but I just wanted to interject there.
I agree. It's a really interesting piece of data. And look, there are a lot of rapidly growing RIAs in those regions too. And I think that's probably an underlying part of that story. They're benefiting from the population migration too, and that's leading to growth, and it's just continuing to compound. We also, so one of the kind of the last over kind of general pieces that we want to talk about too are the different firm types, right? So here at New Planner Recruiting, we're interviewing folks from all the different channels, right? Folks from large RIAs, mid-size RIAs, small RIAs, broker dealers, independent firms, brokerage firms, asset managers, banks, insurance companies. And so we've tried to look at the data and break it down and see, okay, where are people coming from and how is that impacting what they're looking for salary-wise? So when we look at folks coming from large RIAs, we saw a 13% year-over-year increase. Mid-size RIAs, we saw a 25% year-over-year increase. Small RIAs, we saw a 15% increase. But here's the interesting one. From non-RIA institutions, so banks, wirehouses, insurance companies, and some career changers, we saw an 8% decrease in salary demand year over year. So I think this is something that we've all been talking about. If you're kind of in the Michael Kitz's advisor world, we've been talking for a long time about the vitality and the growth of the RIA channel. And I think this solidifies it because what it's telling us, and we can break down the data a bit further if you'd like, Caleb, but when you look at the data, people want to come to RIAs and people are willing to take a pay cut. And now we have a growing data set that suggests that that is the reality.
Well, those are good channels to recruit from. I mean, that's where we're getting the data, right? And that's what I tell the firm owners. I mean, it really is. I mean, just amazing on how these people want to get into the RIA space and what they're willing to take less money. I mean, that's essentially what this tells me, and it's awesome. And what I tell the candidates is like, all right, now, if you want to do financial plan, I mean, look, I mean, let's just, if you scan the headlines of all the magazines and all the, the media, but the headlines are all the same. So and so from this other channel takes their 800 million or their $2 billion, whatever it is, and moves to the RIA side. You almost never see it going the other way.
Absolutely. I was at Schwab Impact last week, and one of the data points that they shared with us was they expect the RIA channel to hire over 70,000 new employees over the next 5 years. And by the way, that's new employees. That doesn't mean someone leaves and gets replaced. That's additional bodies at these RIAs. So if you're an RIA firm owner and you're listening to this, kudos. Thank you for what you do to create opportunity for folks. So,
and just one other thing on that server. I mean, I think they were saying like employees total, not just
that's
new
right.
financial planners or advisors. So could be a CSA or something like. But I know we were talking before we got on there, like that number may even be low with the number of RIAs out there and just the, just what we see and in terms of hiring. So, anyways, keep rolling. Did you have a couple more points on
I
this?
did. And to kind of dive under the hood of that, some of that is certainly career changers that pull that number down. But here's just some really interesting anecdotes. When we look at, say, financial planners, so that person with 5+ years of experience, what were they looking for salary wise? If they're coming out of a wirehouse, the average was $80,000 this year compared to the national average of 115. When you look at folks that are coming out of banks, that met the average of 114. When you look at folks coming out of insurance, they were looking for $103,000. Now, you contrast that to someone who's coming out of a large RIA or a mid-size RIA, it was 132,000 and 128,000 respectively. So what you all are doing is the right things. You're training people well. The lead advisors that are coming out of RIAs are the premium candidate from a salary standpoint.
Great data points. Awesome. Hey, I want to go back to something you said earlier why do you think the paraplan. I mean, I get it that the student kind of stayed level. Why the big jump in the paraplanner? I mean, you got an $8,000 increase in sort of asking price. Any idea what's driving that?
That's an interesting piece, and you and I have talked a lot about this, about what we think may have driven that. Part of that could be some selection bias in the data, right? Who did we talk to this year? And that pushes up the average sum. But I also think it's just everyone we talk to wants a candidate that's got some experience. Maybe they passed the CFP exam. There's kind of that proof of concept in them as an employee. They've got some experience, and you all just need the help, right? Someone who can come in and help build financial plans, who can participate in client meetings, and maybe they're willing to pay a little bit of a premium to get someone who's got a year or 2 years or maybe even 3 years of experience. And I think that's why we saw the big jump for paraplanners and associate planners, because the demand for that kind of Goldilocks 2-year, 3-year past the CFP candidate just keeps going.
It's the people that get the work done, right? I mean, you got and a lot of firms, admittedly, that contact us are like, "Hey, we're top heavy. We got to develop this G2, this G3, G4, whatever it is, and we need the workers. We need the people that get the plans done." And we touched on AI a little bit, before we got on here, but now, I mean, and we've talked about this before. Hey, I'm not just taking notes. I'm not just a player. I mean, they're expecting me to do all this other stuff, so I'm going to ask for a lot more money. I mean, that could be part of it too.
Absolutely, because what we think AI is going to do is just augment the associate advisor and the paraplanner, right? Make them more efficient, allow them to add value. And if someone is coming out of one of these financial planning programs, or they're interested in technology at all, they're probably aware of these AI tools, and they're already using different forms of AI, which means they might be able to come in and help add some value in those spaces within a practice.
Yeah, and just a couple other reminders. I mean, some of the people that maybe listen to this receive $115,000 of financial planner. It's like, oh, that's, and we get this all the time. Well, that's not, we hear that from the candidates. Well, the firm owners, that's too much for the candidate. That's not enough. I mean, just a reminder, this is just salary only. Okay. So, and these are non-sales. I mean, this is somebody who is just a W-2 employee who's getting the clients handed to them, just the relationship person, and same for associate and paraplanner, no real sales goal. I mean, so yeah, I mean, it's the production people, the sales people that, I see out there on Reddit and all the other stuff. I mean, they're like 150, I'm making, this and that. Well, you're not comparing apples to apples usually. Okay. So these are, again, just the worker bee. Someone else usually generates the clients, and these people are just sort of taking care of them. And there's bonus and benefits on top.
That's right. That's right.
Well, anything else, Jesse, that kind of popped out? I mean, we covered some good ground here. Any other data points that were noteworthy?
I think the only other piece of data that maybe caught us off guard a little bit was the relatively small increase for students year over year. Caleb, can you talk about why maybe you think that is?
I mean, it's hard to put a figure on it. I mean, again, it could have just been who we talked to, right? And a lot of this sometimes just has to deal with just the what has the person done to prepare themselves. A lot of the students we talked to are coming out of CFP programs. Some of them have gotten the Series 65 or the SIE, some of these things, but a lot of them haven't. And we do talk to other students who just are, again, a history major, but it's like, man, I want to do this. I can't get a job, or I'm not, don't want to teach history, or, be a coach for the rest of my life, or whatever it is. Uh, but I mean, I would say that maybe there was fewer firms that said, "Hey, we want the new college grad, and we want the paraplanner and the associate planner." So, just a little bit more demand there. I mean, but again, you here at University of Georgia, and I know you at Virginia Tech. I mean, we have a lot of firms lined up to want to hire the students, so that could be just kind of a regional or local bias. But and it also, I mean, just maybe the students weren't asking as much. I mean, one of the point you said something earlier. I mean, some of these career changers or people from other channels, we're trying to have the best data that we can. But like, Caleb, I'm making 100 grand at this other firm or this my other career. And like, look, if a firm will just, I mean, I talked to it with my spouse, and man, I can go down to like 20 grand. I mean, like some of the numbers they're giving me, it's like, wow. I mean, it's like, do we throw those out, or those anomalies? But it's like, no, that's actually impacting the. So it's just back to your original point on especially with career changers and people from other channels, they are really making sort of drastic lifestyle, or they're open to making drastic lifestyle changes just to get their foot in the door, which I think is a great thing for the industry and for the RIA firm owners out there as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was talking to someone that was interested in joining faculty at Virginia Tech a couple of months ago, and we were talking about our financial planning program here at Virginia Tech, and this is a Wall Street veteran, and he leaned over to me and said, "Look, if I had a son or daughter entering college today, a CFP program with a path to an RIA is the career I would have them go into." An anecdote, I know, but it is growing within the greater finance arena now. It's not just the secret within financial services. I think the greater finance world is starting to see that.
That's awesome. Hey, let me talk about some of the offers. So what we also do in addition to gathering, just whenever we place somebody, we just try to record as much data on that as we can, and we include some of that in the report, but we also have a few other ones. The cool thing about this segment, looking at this year's placements, we were very close to 50% male and 50% female, which is another fabulous, at least in our data set. I mean, mostly times it follows in years past, it's followed the typical CFP board, CFP gender bifurcation, about 80% male, 25% female. So that's exciting as well for us. So we've got a couple of new college grads in here. One went to North Carolina, mid-size RIA, 71,500 is what they started her out, plus an annual bonus, which was about 10%. I had a couple of, one guy with experience. I mean, again, it just depends on their situation, sort of what they ask for. A lot of times the firm owner's view on compensation, like, hey, I just got to pay the person as least I can, or, hey, I came from this channel. This is how they need to be paid. And so this was a firm in Texas, 1 year of experience. That person went 75,000, got a $2,000 moving or reload bonus, up to a 10% incentive based on firm profitability. Another person here who had a handful of years of experience. This is actually out in California, a couple years, let's say about 3 years of experience, 90,000 plus incentive. And a couple other more highly experienced people in sort of the Boston Northeast area that were in the low 100s with some experience and some incentives, but also they were a little higher level. So if they did bring on clients, there was a potential for bonus there. I got 2 years of experience, female, not a CFP yet, DC area, 105,000 up to 10% in bonus. So not a lot of experience, very high cost of living area though. What else? A couple new college grads, $65,000 up in the Midwest, $2,500 signing bonus. That's interesting. 5 year female CFP, 80,000 at a small firm in New Jersey, plus profit sharing. New college grad, $60,000 with a $2,000 signing bonus in a firm in Texas, smaller RIA. Another person that had about 3 years of experience as a CSA got hired in a virtual firm for 65,000 plus 15% bonus. 5 year CFP at a Southeast large RIA, 105,000, then up to 20% in annual and incentive. Couple other, let's just look at, I mean, we got, a lot here, but just trying to point out some of the other ones. Couple other new college grad, that 60, sort of 65. What else? A career changer that had a CFP, $100,000 for a virtual firm and kind of a lead planner role. I mean, I'm seeing anywhere from about 60 to up to about maybe 125 is kind of the people that we placed for last year. I don't see anything lower than that. So what I would tell, if there's any sort of students or any career, I mean, what I try to tell you, like, I just don't see people offering less than about four or $5,000 a month. I mean, it's going to be, I mean, I still have a lot of these younger people, they're living with mom and dad to try to make ends meet while they're getting their career started. So, and that was a lot different than when I think you and I got started in the field. One, that wasn't an option, but two, you could afford to, I think, get a place and sort of get started. So, all right. So those are just a couple other, looking through some other ones. Yeah, there's one guy in here, 125K CFP with 7 years of experience, Southeast down in Florida. So really, kind of all over the board, but hopefully those data points on the salary, but also some of the incentive and the signing bonus and the relocation bonus helps.
Absolutely. And look, we recognize that if you've met one RIA, you've met one RIA, and every one of these firms is different. The compensation structure is different. And we just want to give you all some baselines to start with and kind of give you, if you're thinking about hiring or you're reviewing comp within your firm, just so you kind of know where the trends are going. And to maybe cap off that part of the conversation, one of the things that we do is kind of anecdotally pull together the range, right? What is the lowest salary requested and highest salary requested for every range? The range was 50 grand to 120K. Now, I think the 120 was probably a career changer and not likely to happen. And 50K is probably on the low end. Again, that's probably someone who's making a shift. When we look at folks with 3 to 5 years of experience, we saw the range from 50 to 180. That 180 likely being somebody who was maybe a little ahead of schedule in their career development past the CFP. Listening to the placements that Caleb just rattled off, obviously that didn't come to fruition for that person. And then folks with 5 years of experience, we saw 70 to 200, right? And when we're talking about 5+, that 200 person is likely someone that's got a lot of experience, right? And is probably outside of the scope of what we're doing here at New Planner on a daily basis. But that gives you an idea of the range that folks are asking for. That 50 being the lowest any candidate articulated to us last year, and 200 being the very top end. But again, going back to what offers we actually saw happen, the lowest we see is somewhere around 60 at Virginia Tech as program director. That's about the lowest I see as well. And then the top end kind of being in that 120 range.
But you also have seen, I know we talked about this offline, some depending on where they go, like it could be New York or somewhere. I mean, you've seen a lot higher than 60. And I think that's an important point to make, that for the firm owners know, like some of these kids, 80, 85 with maybe just talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. So if the range of new college grads tends to be relatively wide. In my time as program director, I've seen in the 50s. I've also seen north of 6 figures for a graduate of our program. Now, those are some unique circumstances, more kind of the private banking world. But it isn't uncommon for us to see offers in the 70 to 80K range in the highest cost of living areas. So take New York, Washington, D.C., San Francisco, etc. So there is a pretty big range. Our median tends to work out somewhere in the mid to high 60s. So not that different than what our data says here.
And what about internships? I know that this is beyond the scope of our salary report, but we do get a lot of questions about how much should I pay an intern? Should I even pay an intern? How much should I pay them? Do I pay for housing? What have you been seeing?
Yeah, that's a good question. And this range is even wider. And you and I laugh about this when we talk all the time, because we get this question a lot. And the answer is it depends. And so I think it depends on what your internship is. That's a good place to start. If this is a part-time intern where you're looking for a freshman or sophomore to maybe do a little bit of data entry and file for you, I think $15 to $20 an hour is probably pretty reasonable. But understand that if you're looking for a rising senior from a program like Georgia, Virginia Tech, Kansas State, Texas Tech, Texas A&M, they have friends that are getting offers in the 25, 35. And I know of a student coming out of our program that had a $40 an hour offer last year. Now, I'm not saying that's what you need to go create in your internship program, but just know that is the range. I think our average probably sorts out somewhere between 20 and 25. Some of the big asset managers do offer housing. What I would tell you before, if you're relocating a candidate, one of the first things they're going to ask you is about housing. If you're close to a university, have the student or have the candidate call the university. Generally, they can get some sort of dorm rental pretty cheap. Have them network with their friends. This is something that we recommend you do within the program. Just, hey, 3 or 4 of you, if all of you are going to DC, all of you are going to Richmond, Raleigh, wherever it is, just get an apartment. It'll be a great summer experience. So sorry for rambling on there, Caleb, but it's just such a nuanced answer. And it's so broad that it's very difficult to say, hey, this is what you should pay. an intern because it really, really depends.
The college thing, dorm is a good suggestion. That's the only way I could do an internship in Oakland, California 25 years ago,
Right.
was to live in Mills College for 3 months. So, well, Jesse, this is again always fun and insightful, and again, just a reminder too is we're very selective on the firms that come to us. So I have to make sure that they have a very strong, offer that they can make so I can get the candidates excited about it. So there a little bit is probably reflected in that, because if we have really, really good firms that attract really, really good people, that's just sort of where we like to try to operate. I think a lot of people know that already, but we're trying to do good work for good firms.
Absolutely.
Anything else before we close out, Jesse? A lot of good information here.
I don't think so. As always, thank you for having me. Keep up the good work to all the RIA firm owners out there. We appreciate what you all do.
Thanks so much for coming on and joining us, Jesse.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the New Planner Podcast. If you're ready to discover the top career paths for financial planners and see which track is best for you, we created a free guide to help you. Grab your copy of the Financial Planner Career Roadmap at newplannerrecruiting.com/roadmap. There, you'll also find more tools and resources all created to help you build a successful financial planning career. Tune back in next week for another episode, and until then, we're here to help you succeed.